So to lead this session, we will have Jean-Pierre Nordvik from JRC, the head of Cyber and Digital Citizen Security Unit. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody, and welcome to this first panel of today. First of all, many thanks to the Estonian presidency and to the local organization for this wonderful conference, extremely interesting and so timely in this time of changes and challenges in cybersecurity. And I think you will agree with me that research and innovations are key components, essential ingredients in building a strong cybersecurity in the European Union. And if you do not agree with me, then it's even better, because then we can engage afterwards in a very lively discussion with the panel. I see research and innovations are key enablers in order to strengthen our European capabilities in cybersecurity, and really this has been fully addressed, underlined in the recent joint communication, which is from already 2 days ago, time flies, already 2 days ago, where many provisions has been put there in order to address the issues of research and innovation and investment. Just to mention, they were elegantly presented by Sir King, just to mention the creation of this network of competence centers and these EU research and competence centers. And of course, one of the many goals of this research and innovation is to make sure that we are in the best possible place in the months, years to come, to become global leaders in the next generation of digital technologies, whether there be artificial intelligence, machine learnings, blockchains, technologies, advanced biometric systems, etc., high-performance compute, etc. So essential ingredients in a complex recipe, and we know, for those who like cooking like me, that in order to have a successful recipe, you need some magic to work it out, okay? You need the right persons, at the right ingredients, at the right moment. You need to address the right topic, to deliver in time, effective, practical solution on the right topic, and not to miss something, some topics which could be a game changers in the whole horizons. So to discuss these challenges, these opportunities, the best way to put all this into music, we have today a very expert and professional panel with 4 professionals, which I will call now on the stage. First, we have Luigi Rebu, who is the founder and Secretary General of EXO, the well-known European cybersecurity organization, which is the partner with the Commission to this contractual public-private partnerships. Luigi, please come and join me on the table. We have François Thill, who is Director of Cybersecurity in the Ministry of the Economy of Luxembourg, and many years of experience in cybersecurity, and one of the authors of the second version of the cybersecurity strategy. Hi, François. Come and join us. We have Taťána Jančárková, who is legal advisor, head of unit within the National Cyber Information Security Agency in the Czech Republic. Welcome, Taťána. Please have a seat. And we have Kütt, who is an influential technologist, software architect working in Cybernetica, and who has been given a key contribution to the design implementation of the Estonian IT systems. So, welcome to all of you again. And the way it will go is that I'll give the floor to each of the panelists for something like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, first initial statement, and we hopefully will engage in some constructive discussion with you on this topic. And I'll start with Luigi. EXO one of the components of the EXO proposal is clearly research and innovation. That is obvious. EXO is there for more than 1 year now. Can you tell us your view on the progress made, on the priorities you see for the future, and also, of course, on the challenges that is on the way?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad to be here and to represent EXO, which actually somehow EXO has the very ambitious task to represent somehow everybody. Everybody means the private sector, whether it be the user, the supplier, in all the different applications, the university, the research centers, large and small companies, but also we had the ambitions and the pretension to have in our constituency from the very beginning the national and regional public administrations, which is maybe not unique in the configuration in the different European organization dealing with this or that topic. But the point is that on security the things are quite different, because security is and will remain a national prerogative. So the countries will remain sovereign in the application of security, and when we talk about cybersecurity, this is for sure a very, very sensitive issue. And for this reason, we wanted from the very beginning to have this national public administration being member of our association, to sit at the board of directors, that has been said yesterday, took place the same day when the cybersecurity package has been issued. And on top of that, and this is the real difference, is that we have experts from the national public administration participating in our working group. So this is real contribution from we are somehow advising all the community, the community of the Commission, different European institutions, but also back to the member states, and we are advising with some content which is already somehow pre-digested at working group level between the public and the private. So what is being sent out to, let's say, to Brussels, but also back to the capitals, is not just the idea of the industry, of the research center, about future dreams, let me say, but it's something which is already somehow discussed and politically somehow, this is also some political awareness, let me say, in the suggestions that we are bringing forward. So that's, I think it's a real difference with other organizations. And then I will come back maybe on this if there's the opportunity, because that we have to see how to move forward from the present situation, because you said, yes, I had the honor to sign the public-private partnership with Commissioner Oettinger in June 2016 at the European Parliament in Strasbourg. And at that time, the first objective was indeed, when you set up a public-private partnership, is research. So is the topic of this panel. So, and we are, the engagement, as you know, is to invest in research and innovation 1.8 billion in the coming years on cybersecurity. And the task of the association, of the EXO association, is first of all to define the priorities for the coming work programs on research and innovation. So 2018, 19, and 20. That's something that we have done, and then also working maybe on other areas that the Commission immediately recognized and took advantage of the fact that we are not dealing only with research, but we're doing more than that. We have one working group which is specific on research, but we have 5 other working groups which are working on what we call a cybersecurity industry topics, which are certification, which was on the priority that we have a lot discussed yesterday and also already this morning. But we have investment, we have the different needs of the user and operator, the different verticals, so finance, health, and so on. We have another working group dealing with support to SMEs, and support also to the regional, local aspect. Another one on education and training and awareness, and the research. All these working groups are linked, because if we really want to provide the right priorities for research and innovation for the future, we have to understand the market. We have to understand, we have to prepare the market. Otherwise, we do somehow, as we've done in the past in many other areas, where we build up research project here and there scattered in the galaxy, let me say, but there is no, when they reach a certain level of maturity, the market is not ready to absorb them. So that's the reason why we want to prepare the market in order for the research innovation, for this innovation to be better implemented, let me say. So, and this includes, yes, a certification, but also investment not only on capability building, but also on the capacity building, and the fact that you really go and you implement and use appropriately. The fact of the education and training. Education, in our priority, this is something which looks obvious when you know the rule in Brussels, but maybe not obvious to everybody, me first, that today, Horizon 2020 is, in Horizon 2020, you don't finance education, because education is a national issue, it's not a European concern. So maybe we thought about a possible cyber Erasmus, let me say, but that's the maximum we could promote today. Because there is, so we can send a strong message, we need more education, we need more training. The Commissioner said there will be 350,000 jobs needed for 2023, that's in the communication. But how can we reach this? Who is supporting this? Who is financing this? And actually the role of Europe there is to maybe harmonize the approach this, but at the end it will be a national issue. So that's the reason. And it's something also we have learned when we started up this discussion. So I said we started 1 year ago, a bit more than a year ago, but we learned a lot. We learned that it's extremely difficult to put together on one basket all these different sectors which are dealing with cybersecurity, because it's all the world. There are 500 million Europeans which are interested in this topic. It's not just a small sector. So when we put together all this in one basket, you see that you have different requirements, different sectors, different requirements, different level of maturity, different level of understanding. So it's not possible to have only one view, and that's the reason why you have to start really from education level, from training level, so when you bring up your expert to use appropriately the tools, and then or the awareness on the decision maker, because the top level management, you have to decide to take the right decision for update of their system. Otherwise, you end up with the consequence we have seen recently on the malware and so on, because they simply have not taken decision for the right update. So that's very important. That's the first step: education, training, and awareness. And then you have also to develop exactly, to make the right research in the good direction, and to have the let's say. To make this research with the security by design, and actually, if you read the communication is even more, because not only security by design means that that's the initial phase, but all along the life cycle, you have to assure the sustainability of your solution, because consider the IoT, which will be, as has been said, also 10 billions in 2020, there's several tens of billions in 2020, and they will be out in the nature. So okay, maybe at the beginning you can assure some level of update of their configuration, but then you forgot them in the nature, and they will be a weak point of entry for all the, let's say, 5 years after, 10 years after. You have lost them in the nature, and there is no patches. Nobody will support it, and this will be a big problem. So we have to see with research that we are promoting how this will be not only a quick fix, but something really for the long term. And this is will be a real challenge for the future research.
Okay, Thank you very much. I take many inputs from your speech. The challenge of this community building and multidisciplinarity, multiplicity of stakeholders and actors, not all at the same level of maturity. The need that research and the markets have to have a dialogue so that they are both ready to address the right topics and at the same time to be able to deliver, and the market to be able to take this input into their own plan. This plea on educations and this not quick fix things, but forward-looking try of solution, of providing a solution. Thank you for this. François, now we have a national perspective here. So how do you see, with your experience, the role that governments has to have in nurturing, fostering research and innovation? What is your experience in that respect?
Well, we have a quite long experience in this area because we started in 2001. I'm from the Ministry of Economy, so my view upon cybersecurity is perhaps a little bit different than yours, because I see in cybersecurity actually nothing else than really a strong factor of attractiveness of an economy, meaning that cybersecurity can really help me, my country, to make my country much more attractive than others, because we can provide a safe, secure and resilient place. But where are we coming from? What has happened until now? Well, we started working in Luxembourg on cybersecurity at the Ministry of Economy on invitation of Belgium. That was after the I Love You virus. You might remember it. It was around 2000. And Belgium invited us to join, to work together with them in awareness raising and in the work of cybersecurity in order to promote cybersecurity within SMEs and citizens. And actually, the I Love You case remembers me really a lot on WannaCry. Because I Love You was an email you got with a Visual Basic macro, and you opened an email, clicked on the attachment, and you infected yourself. WannaCry was actually the same, but 17 years later, which is a little bit scary, because you see really what is one of the major problems in cybersecurity. It's the human being. Why should I try to attack vulnerabilities that always change if I have one factor where the vulnerability stays a constant, meaning the human being is constantly and over the same way vulnerable? Well, that is the time when we started, and the Luxembourg government really decided that it would want to play a very active role in cybersecurity, because it has to lead, has to show how to, or lead by example, and provide infrastructure and also services so that others can secure themselves. This is something we called democratization of security, meaning we try in Luxembourg to reduce costs and complexity for everybody. But because in cybersecurity it's always very, very difficult if you come with very complex texts nobody understands, and go with these texts to an SME and tell them to buy a product. That does not work, because they didn't understand and they don't trust what they don't understand. That is why all our strategy is based upon we call it democratization of cybersecurity, and creation of an infrastructure in order to help other people to work more safely. This is based on a very, very strong collaboration, because we are really seriously convinced that cybersecurity is not at all an individual task, but a collaborative task. Everybody has to play its role: the citizen, the child, the elderly people, the SMEs, the companies, the government, everybody. And it is the role of the government or of other bodies to try to foster this collaboration, to make people cooperate, and in case of incidents, to coordinate them. That is what I think is a very, very important role of government. But the government, and another thing government has, well, he's often regulating, he's often fixing rules you have to follow. But the problem in fixing these rules is often that also within governments there are these silos, look at the telecom regulation, look at the data protection, look at all the banking regulation we have. Well, they are all different. That is one of the big problems, and I think one of the roles a government should take is give advice in how to follow regulation, give guidance, and if possible, try to harmonize these regulations we have in cybersecurity. In Luxembourg, we have 6 regulators that are dealing with cybersecurity, and there are companies that fall under at least 5 of them. So the regulation is, for some industries, a serious burden, and for Ministry of Economy, would be a big opportunity to reduce this burden of regulation by harmonizing. But how can you harmonize? Well, you must define, for instance, a common taxonomy, common language. You must define, as everybody is choosing the way via risk assessment, well, propose risk management schemes. We have created a risk management methodology based on 2705, but giving guidance, and it is a tool that really fosters collaboration. It makes no sense if every company in Luxembourg makes its own risk assessment with different guessing of probability of threats, of ease of exploitation of vulnerabilities, or of impacts. It makes absolutely no sense, because the regulator will not be able to aggregate this risk and take a really serious decision on where to go, because he doesn't know where we are. And that is what I think is one of the roles of the government, to feed back information into the sector. We are promoting in Luxembourg extremely public-private partnerships, because the government, Ministry of Economy, has a lot of information, because we are running one of the nodes of MISP. You might know MISP, Malware Information Sharing Platform, a project coming out of NATO, being turned open source and helping people to share information, indicator of compromise. Luxembourg has seen the very big importance of such a tool, because it can help people collaborate. We invest a lot of money to enlarge this product, but luckily we are not the same. Airbus is contributing, many countries are contributing, and this is, for instance, one of the platforms we are using to extract information and feed it back to the sectors. Because the importance of a government is also to give an overview of a threat landscape for SMEs, for other companies. It is very important for governments that gives or talks about regulation, for instance, GDPR, where you have to do incident reporting, how to do it, how to train people to make the whole company with the management, technical guys, customer guys, they come together, make an exercise, live an incident, and learn how to communicate between each other and file a proper incident report to the regulator. And these are the things I strongly believe that the government should do, not only collect information, but create the possibility of sharing and giving back to its economy all the information it has, because a secure economy is an attractive economy.
Thank you, François, for sharing your views and putting the emphasis on the prosperity that comes with strong cybersecurity, on the need for collaborations, and the role of governments in that respect. And you mentioned this concept of speaking the same language, in particular for risk assessments. You also mentioned GDPR in this context of security, and I see the convergence on many mechanisms to implement GDPR, privacy, data protection, the cybersecurity aspect as well. I was last week in the Estonian presidency on privacy and data protection. There we were talking about cybersecurity, and at the end of the day, from a technical perspective and from a process perspective, there are for sure conversion and synergies that they are at the end of the road. I turn now to Taťána, also from a governmental national expertise, to ask us really also on the role of member states in steering research and innovation, both on the contents and on the processes. What are your experience and your views on that?
Thank you Does it work?
It works.
Totally. Thank you. Good morning, all, and thanks for having me today. Before the panel, I was going to start with the caveat that since I don't have a technical background and I'm more on the regulatory side, then you should not be surprised if I try to steer off or steer away from the discussion if it gets too technical or something. But I'm glad I don't have to, actually, because what gentlemen before me have already said adds up to what resonated yesterday as well, that cybersecurity is not about technologies only. It's actually a much wider concept that involves many other elements as well. And coming from national public administration, talking about research and innovation, my growing feeling is actually that we cannot really have innovation without first having national administrations mature enough to be capable of innovative thinking and actually being innovative themselves. So before we can discuss innovation in a, let's say, in cybersecurity itself, in a more narrow term, we have to first start with innovative governance, probably. And from our national perspective, what we are trying to promote is first the whole of government approach, and second, involvement, obviously, of all stakeholders, including private industry, including academia, including civil society. When I talk about the whole of government approach, we have been learning, basically, we've been taking cybersecurity seriously since 2011, when the government took the decision to establish the National Cybersecurity Center and tasked the National Security Authority then with its development, with the preparation of Cybersecurity Act and with the regulatory framework for protection of critical information infrastructure. So since then, we have learned that it's not always easy, but it's absolutely crucial to get the horizontal engagement and also the vertical engagement of public administration, by which I mean that cybersecurity is not only about the institution tasked with critical information infrastructure protection, but you also have to talk and you have to know the people and have to have processes to share information with law enforcement responsible for cybercrime investigation and prosecution. You need to have good contacts, let's say, with the military, because obviously the national setup or the cybersecurity, cyber defense setup is different in different countries, and cybersecurity and defense go hand in hand. And you also need to have good relations with intelligence services. And what has proven often a challenge was actually to get information from one to the other. Because in Central Europe, public administration tends to be quite protective of their portfolios and of their information, and often it does happen that even if they are willing to share, they actually don't have. We don't have. I'm part of it. So we don't have processes, actually procedures to share information. So we had to tackle this challenge, and then the vertical engagement. It has resonated here yesterday as well. That it is important to have the right people at the table, meaning from the operational level to the decision makers who actually can take the decision and make the difference. Practical example, we had a next cybersecurity exercise last year, a tabletop exercise, and we managed actually to get to the table high positioned public servants. We got a couple of deputy ministers, we got security directors of major public institutions, and in this dedicated slot for decision makers, we faced them with the fictitious crisis, let's say cybersecurity crisis that escalated up to national level and so on. And they basically needed to test the procedures and how the country would react in this crisis. And the finding was that actually we didn't know, or they didn't know, and they were actually surprised. So from a cybersecurity perspective, this was a thrilling and good lesson learned. From a taxpayer's perspective, it was a bit less reassuring, but it definitely showed and it sensitized them also to the topic of cybersecurity, which is part probably of the innovative approach to the governance, which I would definitely stress as important to think about. Then, so when you get the public administration on board horizontally and vertically, then obviously you need to think of other stakeholders and you need to talk to them from the beginning. So for instance, when we prepared the regulatory framework for cybersecurity, we actually wrote it in consultations with the industry, with academia, right from the beginning. And we are doing the same again now with the NIS directive that we are implementing into or transposing into national framework. So after all this, we can then probably talk about innovation in a narrow term, let's say, or innovation and research in cybersecurity itself. And my thoughts on this, when I was thinking, but when I was preparing for the panel, I was thinking actually what the biggest challenges are for us as a government, and what I hear that the biggest challenges are for our constituency, be it the operators of critical information infrastructure, be it mostly, probably most cases, critical infrastructure, or let's say operators or institutions from the public sector, because those are the disadvantaged one in a sense, because the public sector tends to lack resources, lack expertise, funds, and so on, and on the other hand is constrained by bureaucracy. So my I don't know, impressions or points that I would like to probably make in respect to innovation would be that it tends to be, we need to be clear about what do we want, who will implement it, and how we pay for it. And now finally, cybersecurity is becoming sexy, as was also mentioned yesterday, which is good because now finally there appear to be resources for cybersecurity, and also people are beginning to realize the importance of the topic. However, yesterday, for instance, or 2 days ago with the cyber package, there was another funding instrument announced, the Cyber Emergency Response Fund or something like that. We also heard that the CEF instrument could possibly be strengthened. Then, for instance, back home, what we have as a major tool of support to critical information infrastructure is the 10th call within the regional operational program, integrated regional operational program, that is dedicated to cybersecurity. But all these funds actually are quite difficult to use. Or at least this is what we hear from our constituency, and this is also what we get from our limited experience, and also from experience with our own institutions, let's say with the government. So in the event, the innovation on one hand has a lot of money, on the other hand might be actually hampered by it being difficult to put into practice, let's say, by the funds. And I think that would probably be my call to us as national administration, as member states, both at national level and then European level, that we should keep it simple. For instance, I have this colleague, I mentioned it to you earlier, I have this colleague, God knows how he became a bureaucrat in public administration, but his idea is basically that the state should just give money to the brilliant minds and let them do the job. Tell them what we need to achieve, and let them to do however they want it to do, just deliver the result. But this is impossible, obviously, in current settings, but it's still something to think about, so we should keep it simple.
Thank you, Taťána. I'm so happy I'm not involved in funding research myself as a commission, but just doing research for the benefit of all, I hope. Thank you also for making that point clear and loud, and also for basically describing the prerequisites you see for national governments to have in order afterwards to be able to support, foster research and innovation initiative. And these vertical and horizontal lines are very important. And the fact that you mention also law enforcement community, intelligence service shows the multiplicity of actors, and also the difficulty that may exist in sharing information and having joint shared research activity across these sectors that typically are silos, and we have to work towards trying to break these silos and make synergism about these initiatives. Now, Andres, I'm turned to you, and who is perhaps the most technical guy on the panel here, and I wanted from you your views now on the on the topics really that would benefit most from research and innovations support. Do you see that we are tackling the right ones? Do you see other ones that need to be tackled? I have often the impression that when we tackle technical matters, it's kind of a reactive way and not a forward-looking way. What is your views on that?
Thank you, and good morning. And I am freshly left public service, and therefore I do apologize if I am appearing slightly politically incorrect in my freshly found freedom to speak my mind. And these things actually are on my mind a lot. There are a few things I'm really concerned about. The first thing probably is that I don't think we are spending too much resources and effort on actual collaboration. What I mean by that is that, taking the example from Airbus, in that context it would be really ridiculous to say that these people who build the wings of the aircraft, their wings are really well built and secure, and there's high level of cybersecurity on all the aircraft wings. And then there are people who deal with the avionics, and these people have the cybersecurity matters well under control. And we do spend a lot of effort and time and money on making sure the wings of the European Union and the avionics and other parts are really well built and really secure. But coming back to the aircraft, I mean, the entire aircraft needs to be secure in combination with the avionics, with the engines provided by a third party, with the wings. All the parts must function together. And this is, I think, one of the areas where we actually should be doing more in terms of research and also development. I don't think we are paying enough attention as to understanding how different aspects of the European Union work together, and also reusing good innovation that has happened in particular areas. The other concern is related, is in that in order to really sort of share a solution, or even to jointly try to find a solution to a problem, that problem must be shared first. And while there is a very clear understanding and very clear shared understanding that cybersecurity is important, that privacy is important, the meaning of that word, what it means to be secure, is actually quite different in different member states. Of course, we understand that viruses are bad and so forth, but going beyond that, we often find that there are almost diametrically different approaches to privacy and security. If in some countries sharing information between agencies is seen as a challenge to privacy, and it can be. And in other member states, sharing information between agencies is seen as enabler of privacy. It is really difficult to see how we can define and set up problems to be solved in a joint fashion. And I fully understand that there's a reason why those different perspectives exist, but I can't really see a way around finding a more common ground in these definitions if we want to improve R&D work in this field, joint R&D field in this work, and by doing that improve the overall situation. And finally, coming back to the beginning, being a private sector representative now, I think it would be a weird thing to say, but I'm really concerned about the increased investments in the field. And the reason is that what we are seeing is this unfortunate situation by which, when there is a lot of funding going around, these funds, there's a public expectation that the funding decisions must be very appropriate, and there's a lot of money to be spent, so the public expects that funding to be spent very, very carefully. And this drives up the stakes from the companies and the universities and the organizations applying for that funding, which makes decision-making more complicated, which means, of course, that in order to justify that money being spent, more procedures and systems are added to make sure that decisions are very well made, which drives up the stakes, and you get into this this unfortunate vicious cycle by which more and more funding is spent on things other than doing research. And this is something that really concerns me in that field. I mean, of course, more attention to cybersecurity and these issues is welcome. I'm not saying that, but we really should think of how we can get rid of that, get out of that vicious cycle, and really, sort of, as it was said before, give the money to the people who actually can use it, so they can actually build useful things.
Very good. Thank you. I take many things from your interventions, this system approach, the definition of and sharing the problem first,
exactly,
which is half already solving the problem, the convergence of so many issues on the same subject matter, as a matter of fact. And also the notion of managing the expectation where there are so much funding, or so much, depending on how you want to say it, compared to the rest of the world, but a lot of budget available, and this call that Taťána also made on simplicity, which has to be combined in an effective way with rules of using public money for accountability and transparency and things like that. That's surely a difficult equation. Many thanks to you and to all the panelists. I think it's time to open the floor for questions to the audience. I think there is here, yes, I'm not very good at that. It's dangerous. Okay. Actually, it's also heavy. Any questions? I promise. I will not throw it. I will not throw it. Okay. Any questions from the audience? I don't see well, so please. I see. Yes, there. It's a gentleman there. You want really to have it? Oh no! You see, I'm just a civil servant. I'm just a civil servant. Okay, good, very good.
So, yes, I would like to ask all panelists if they see any challenge between innovation and the certification, which is, as we know, with the NIST directive, a new prerequisite.
Who wants to take it, Luigi?
Well, it's somehow in the wording of the cybersecurity package that identifies certification as one of the instruments to support innovation and also competitiveness in Europe, because the fact that the link between innovation and certification is that it should go along on what has been said before, the duty of role. It is the extension of security by design. So, as I said before, that something has been not only designed to be secure, but to sustain the security all along its lifetime. And so you have the innovation phase, and with the certification, you certify that it has been that the result is compliant with certain requirements of what we call the duty of role for not only the beginning, but for a certain period of time. And so probably then with the time you have to recertify or to verify if it complies with the certification. So there is a link between how you innovate, how you bring the solution to the market, and you keep it also available to the market. So the certification role is very strong with respect to how you drive in the innovation.
Yep. Andres, certainly there is
François.
this tension between these two topics. From one hand, certification certainly should help with the issue of Internet of evil or stupid things that we are seeing now, where everybody puts everything in everything, really, and expects them to work together and in a secure fashion. So there's that. but also the certification should be done in a fashion that really is able to adapt around things that were not there before. We are right in the middle of one of those challenges right now. Cybernetica worked out a concept called split key encryption, which, don't want to get into detail, but it's something that wasn't there before. And we are now faced with a challenge that this technology needs to be certified. But it wasn't there before, so it's really difficult to explain how it works or why it is secure, and that process can really be challenging. So certification certainly is necessary, but we need to figure out a way how to certificate things that were not there before, which is by definition innovation.
Yeah. Okay, François?
I think that if certification is done right, it is a tremendous chance for startups. Because from a Ministry of Economy perspective, we have accelerators in public and in private domain, and what we always see is there are people coming with very good ideas, very nice products, but nobody buys them. They end up leaving towards US because there people buy products of startups. That is one of the big problems we have in Europe, that we only buy deep pockets or products that have a stamp on it. So if there's an accessible way, and a really accessible way, not in the common criteria EL4, but an accessible way for startups, that might be a tremendous chance to get this good innovation being done in Europe, being used in Europe. That would be an advantage.
Okay. Taťána?
I don't think that innovation and certification in principle contradict each other. I think they can actually support each other or complement. The important thing is to get the framework right of certification, because certification is inevitable in long run, be it from the economic development point of view or from national security point of view as well. But it's important to get the framework right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Other questions from the audience? I promise I will not try again. So anyway, you have to help me because I really don't see very well. So no one here? No one? Okay. So
there's a question.
Yeah, there is. Eiko, thank you very much. You see, it's a collaboration. Huh? You need to help me. So.
Henk Mannekens, BT. I just wanted to ask a question about the research institution or the organization of the research at EU level, because so now we have ESCO, there is H2020, there is a GRC, and now so we hear that the Commission is thinking about setting up some new competence and research center. So my question is, do you understand the background why they would move to that, and what would be the differences with in approach and existing structures? I also forget maybe ENISA, which also act as a competence center.
Who wants to take that?
Well, we all from national administrations.
Who wants to take that from the panel? You want to take it, Luigi?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm obliged.
Yes, of course.
Well, how many hours for the answer?
I think less than 1 hour. I think 10 minutes maybe.
Well,
No,
that's exactly something. To give an answer to this question, we need much more discussion with the Commission. Actually, it is written that the Commission will, it has been mentioned, but also reminded by the Commission this morning, that there will be a pilot phase in 2018, and the Commission will better elaborate in 2018 the details of this, because it's quite complex indeed situation where you have different stakeholders, and not all are mentioned in the communication, by the way. There are some which are somehow also around there, always in the European scene. Well, maybe JSC a little bit mentioned there, but also you could mention the EIT
Absolutely.
And others. So there are many stakeholders which are around, and there is ENISA, as you mentioned, the new role of ENISA also in the research part. And actually, I spoke yesterday with Steve Purser. They said it's something they were asking for a long time, but they were somehow surprised to see this coming up because they didn't push much in the last time. So that all these have to be put together. And the Horizon 2020 will evolve. It's still at the end of the of 2020, okay. And in the frame of Horizon 2020, the PPP has been set up in the frame of Horizon 2020, and EXO has been created to support the PPP, but also it is written that this will evolve with the new Commission, will evolve also with the new, we call framework program, what we call FP9, but maybe will evolve in something more complex. It's the Commission will study the possibility of set up a joint undertaking that also we discussed from even before the creation of EXO, that we could go to a joint undertaking. But is this really the good instrument or not? This is really something that we are already started a discussion today, and we will go deeper in 2018. Because we have to do more than simply research. So, but this is, and if you look at the challenges of cybersecurity and cybersecurity research, they go well beyond the usual joint undertaking shape, let me say, because of the fact also of the governance. The normal joint undertaking, take the CESAR, take the shift to rail and so on, they are somehow, the members are limited to few tens of stakeholders. In cybersecurity, we have thousands of stakeholders. What kind of governance? How you can bring together all this and focus them in the direction, even if it is only dealing with research. So it's a real challenge. We were discussing also before at breakfast with the Commission, and then they don't have an answer today. They don't have an answer. The Commission has not, and we neither on the private sector, let me say. So we have to see how to move on. That's a common task for next year. And also this, on top of that, what will be the link with ENISA particularly, and we have started discussion with ENISA on EXO side, and what will be the link also with this new network and the center. They are not defined. The member states they have discussion with member states how this network will be set up, what at national level and what kind of link across this competence center, and what will be the shape of this central center, if I may say so. So this is something which is not clear. For sure, there will be this network and the center which somehow will rise the competence. The role of EXO, for sure, will remain to be the point of dialogue between public and private, and rise the concept up to a certain level where we can give advice to the Commission, to the member states, to ENISA as well, where they can then finalize and take the decision. This is the way we see today. But how this will work together, it's a discussion for 2018.
Okay. Any additional comment? Yeah, from you on this specific, very important question? Nothing to add? No? Other questions? Mark Miller.
Mark Miller, EXO, EOS, conceptivity. One of the big questions that I think we and I'm talking specifically SMEs, has at this point in time, when we look at the different funding programs for research, and especially given some of the new communications which have missed out on this issue of the importance of SMEs, especially in the cyberspace. When we look at this situation, we say, why is there not more emphasis on the benefits and also encouraging SMEs to be part of this research funding process? And in fact, in discussing with other SMEs, including my own, sometimes these types of funding programs are really have a lot of disincentive for an SME to jump in.
What you said.
Yeah.
So my question to the panel is this: how, in your opinion, could there be more incentive for SMEs to participate more in the research programs, more in the research funding, and how could there be some way of redirecting some of the orientation, which now doesn't seem to be in the direction of SMEs, given the communications, given the recent speech by Juncker. I think we need to think about this. So my question is, how can we do this? Thank you.
François?
Well, in Luxembourg it works quite well because the government finances innovation in SMEs. SMEs, as you surely know, are actually the motor of innovation, and we work a lot with SMEs in also in cybersecurity because they are capable of changing quickly, adapting to a new kind of problem you have, and they will grow with you on your task you are doing. An example, Luxembourg is lead in the IPCI, Important Project Common European Interest in high performance computing, and in this aspect we are teaming up with mostly small companies all over Europe in order to implement pilots in high performance computing. We will need cybersecurity in these aspects, and they don't exist. So whom do you choose? An American big provider, yeah, the smallest customer as Luxembourg, or you choose a partner with which you can grow? The choice of many countries is to actually have a national funding scheme for SMEs because they will grow with you on your demand.
I see Andres.
Yes, thank you for making that comment because it's exactly what I'm concerned about right now, exactly what I said in my earlier comments. The thing is that there is this constant pressure to increase that level as towards higher and higher stakes, towards higher and higher companies. That's a natural way of how things go. And as an engineer, I'm saying if things get more complicated, you must manage that complexity. You must focus on deliberately measuring and understanding where the complexity comes from and then minimizing it. And so from non-bureaucrat position, I would say that the solution to this is a more deliberate and goal-driven design of the funding process itself in a way that really sort of understands where the complexities, where the issues are coming from and works to mitigate those.
Okay.
But what I want to emphasize really is that I don't think there's a deliberate action. It's just how organizations work.
Well, just
Thank you,
a short
Taťána.
point that from a bureaucrat's point of view, I think Andres is right. That's it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I think we have the time for a last question from the audience. Is there anyone? No more questions? You don't see either, huh? Okay, good. I have myself still questions because when we talk about research and innovation, we often talk about technologies, okay? But many of the points you raised had not really to do with technologies, they had to do with processes, with soft things, education, readiness, awareness, simplicity, funding. Do you think we should perhaps do research in order to improve these aspects and not just to do research for on technological aspect, that we should do something more to address head-on these educational or communication or information sharing across horizontally, vertically within governments, public sectors, etc.?
Well, if I can respond to this question to respect to what the our working group on research and innovation has produced, so it's more than 200 experts in this working group. So really, including all the different sectors I mentioned before, not only the supplier, but also the user, the research and the university, and the member states, once again, expert from public administration. And they divided the priorities in 3 areas. One are technologies, so you can mention blockchain and all this new, let me say, advanced technology to be developed. One are the application of this technology in the different verticals, in the different market sector. So once again, Industry 4.0, the health, the finance, the energy, the transport, and so on. And then you say, but you need also to develop, to make research for development of the ecosystem. So all, as I said before, what helps you the innovation to be implemented? So you have the standard, you have the training, the cyber ranges, and all what can help this technology and this application to be really to take place and be developed and used correctly. Okay. This is the point.
Very good.
If I may, I think it's a good idea actually, for instance, with regard to education, because we could probably research or look into why people make always the same mistakes and what to do about it, how to educate people in cybersecurity, how to alleviate people's fear of technologies for cybersecurity, because often we get, even in public administration, we get, oh, this is cybersecurity, I don't understand it, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I think kind of social soft research would also be a way.
Thank you. Andres?
Yeah, I think technology tends to take care of itself. I mean, more technology leads to more technology. People have amazing tools at their disposal, and they will keep on inventing amazing things. So that growth is just going to continue whatever we do about it. But our understanding of how that technology interacts with the society, how do we get benefits out of that, what it even means for the society, that area needs a huge amount of effort and really deliberate basic research into how to make things work together. As I just back to the parallel of aerospace, there's an entire area of aerospace research that is only focused on making things safe. It's a basic research, very complicated area. We need that sort of thing in the cyber area as well.
Okay, very, very good point, inspiring. Thank you. Last change for questions from the audience? No? Then to close this panel, I'll ask now in turn each panelist with a single word or a very short sentence. If you had to do something now or to change something now with respect to research and innovation, what would it be? I'll start with Luigi.
I would come back to what Mark said, that stronger support to SME, not only facilitation and funding.
SMEs. François.
Use what you have innovated.
Okay. Taťána.
Focus and know what you want.
Andres.
Seek better and more shared questions to answer.
Very good. Let me join me in applause for our panelists. Thank you very much.